So in this little video, I have here, if you're a oil lantern type fan or like that kind of thing, I have the mothership of them all. I have a Aladdin lamp. So this is an Aladdin uh, chimney type style oil lamp. It's just like an oil lamp, but you see this blue part in here? That's actually a mantle. So it's kind of like a Coleman lamp. So this little guy, the way this thing burns, it uses a cylinder type wick, kind of like a kerosene heater, the big round ones. And then the way this thing is designed, the air comes in the bottom here. It's all open. It's all, like mesh, goes up through this thing, through the wick, and then the fire starts happening and all that other good stuff. And then the wick heats up the mantle and makes the mantle glow. So this huge chimney here is all for convection and getting the air in and the heat out, and this thing is one hot sucker when this thing is lit. Now this thing is actually brand new. I've never ever lit this thing. So I got oil in it and stuff like that. It's been around the house for a very long time. And it's dirty. The brass is all oxidized and tarnished, and it's dirty and stuff like that. So in time, I'm not going to light this, because once you light a mantle, it's like touching a moth's wings, where they're fragile. So any little jar or stuff like that, you'll completely destroy the mantle after it's been lit. So needs a full cleanup, needs a good polishing and stuff like that. So, and the glass needs to be washed and stuff like that. So this is one of my little wacky projects that I've been wanting to finish for a long time. So this thing is they call it a shelf lamp. So it's meant to be, a tabletop lamp on a shelf when you light it and stuff like that. But my goal was, I always wanted to make this into a hanging lamp. So if you don't know how these Aladdin's mantle lamp works, this thing puts the light output equivalent to a 40 or a 60 watt incandescent bulb, depending on how well it's tuned. If the wick's perfect and the mantle's in good shape, this thing puts out a lot of light. I mean, think about a 40 watt lamp or a 60 watt lamp. It puts out a decent amount of light. This thing is the equivalent, except that it's oil fired. So I've always wanted to, when I bought this thing, like I said, my intention was to make it a hanging lamp. So these things are kind of a niche type thing now. I mean, with the advent of USB power banks and LED flashlights and torches and lanterns and stuff like that, these things are a niche, So if you're a true diehard, you pick these things up. But problem is, since these things are so, the market is so small for these things, there's only a couple of places that carry parts and stuff like that. And of course, there's a couple of places that are just strictly, they sell Aladdin parts and stuff like that. And this is actually a true Aladdin from the Aladdin company before it changed names and hands and stuff like that. So this is one of the last Aladdin lamps. I think it was about a year or two after I bought this thing, I got an email notification that says the Aladdin lamp company is no longer, owned by Aladdin, blah blah blah. It's owned by somebody else, and yada yada yada. But the parts are still available for these things. These things are still made today, if you choose to have one of these things. And like I said, this thing is dirty and it needs to be cleaned. It needs to be dressed up so it looks presentable. Because right now it's disgusting. It's tarnished, it's dirty, it's dusty, and crap like that. But I did say I wanted to make it into a hanger, so looking around, I says, you know what? Since the places are getting far and few between, and the places that do have the parts, they kind of got you by the balls, so they can kind of, you know, negate of prices and stuff like that. So I says, you know what? Before prices continue to get more and more, you know, because eventually you're going to stop making parts, and it's just a matter of, you know, the new old stock game of who carries it and stuff like that. So I decided to get the parts for it to finish it so I can hang this thing. I don't know where I'm going to hang it, but I'll find a spot somewhere to hang this thing, because these things are actually, I like the looks of these things. I think they're so cool. So I bought the hanger and I bought the shade for it. I have no idea what they look like, how they are assembled, or how to get it in there, or anything like that. It's just, I've always wanted to finish this, so I says I'm gonna finish it, so I can have a cool oil-fired lantern hanging from the ceiling. And then when somebody visits, they're like, "That's a cool light." I said, "Well, it is a light, but it's actually an oil lamp." So they packed this thing very well. So this is the hanging frame for this thing. So it's got all the little bits. Because even this thing is a little tarnished. Because who knows how long these things have been sitting? So we got some parts. We got the little soot catcher here, and parts for the shade. So we've got shade parts. We've got the little soot thing here that hangs in the middle, and it's got some small parts in it that we don't want to lose. It's got a little S hook. This stuff's got to be all polished so it looks nice, because it's a little tarnished, but that's what happens with the brass. It needs maintenance from time to time, so that's why you got the good old-fashioned brasso. Clean this sucker up, make it look brand new and shiny. So that's for that. Then we got this little jiggly bit stuff. Get the chain. So this is for hanging, obviously. Because I can tell just by having this bit of chain in that plastic bag, it's not as tarnished as the rest of it. But this one link that's been hanging outside, it's all tarnished. So gives you some time that it's been sitting in there. So this looks like it gets tightened down. Such. And I think this thing literally just fits in there. Oh yeah. So we got that. Of course, it's going to sit on the ground like that. Something like that. And then this little bell thing here. He goes on top like this. So this kind of keeps the soot at bay, because sometimes you get these things. You'll get these things rolling where it'll start rolling out a little bit of soot. So instead of the soot going directly up to the ceiling and staining up your ceilings and stuff like that, this keeps it at bay, kind of mushrooms it out a little bit. And then we got the shade here. I think it goes like that, I think. Of course, I really have no idea. I might have to Google search how to put this thing together. But this is definitely for the shade. So, speaking of shades, we gotta get the shade out. So, that's in another box. Another big honking box. So this is a nice milk glass type shade for these things. For this particular one, anyway. I think they come in a little different styles too. Of course, it's all taped in there. So I'll have to flip them over. Oh yeah, this is heavy duty shade. Heavy duty. This is a heavy shade. So here's the shade. And this is real glass. It's got a nice ring to it. So, I think this thing goes on the inside. Thing. I'm just guessing here. I have no idea. And then this whole contraption something like this, but this shade would be a little higher. But I gotta figure out. Oh, there you go. I know I figured it out. Now I see. Now I see how it goes. Some little screw holes here for this thing. See, we're learning here. It's all a process of when you tinker with this stuff. You learn how it goes. So this has got a screw and a nut. So we'll take the screw and the nut out. Then these notches got to go on the inside of the hoop. Something like that. We'll stick that in there. So luckily that thing tips. So this thing, we'll stick that in there like that. Then we'll stick the nuts in. Because for now, they only got to be finger tight. Because this stuff's got to be all polished and cleaned up so it looks pretty and nice. So that goes like that. I think you can take this out. Thing, it'll allow you to get it up in there. Stick that in there like that. And then, of course, when it's hanging somewhere, it'll look better. And this thing goes over the top. These little dogs keep it from going any further down than it needs to go. It kind of supports it. It's just like a typical lampshade or like an overhead fixture. It's got the little thumb screws so you can kind of center it. And now when this thing hangs, that's what it's going to look like when it's done. Isn't that awesome? That is so flippin' cool. So I'll definitely have to clean this up and get this thing lit and then show this off on camera because this thing is awesome. And I like the style of the look. I love the look of these things. I've always liked the look of these. I like that old school sort of industrial look of this lamp. It's so cool. And then when this thing is hanging, of course you're going to hang it somewhere where you can access it. And of course you can light it in here and all that other stuff. You can get the chimney up, adjust the flame and fuel it and stuff like that. So, very, very cool. I'm not going to hang this off of that. What about breaking? No, it's not enough room. That's okay. Very cool. So, my little task to complete this is now completed. Like I said, the only thing I got to do is just clean this thing up, polish it, polish all the brass, clean the glass, change the fuel in there because the fuel is old in there, so I want to change the fuel. And I don't think I put the right fuel in it anyway because I used regular lamp oil, for the regular wick type things, and these things are kind of particular on what kind of fuel you stick in them. So it's preferred to run straight kerosene or the Aladdin fuel. So K1 kerosene or the Aladdin fuel, and then of course I got all the wick trimmers and wick cleaners for this particular thing in here. And this is something you gotta, if you got these things like hanging off your ceiling there, it's probably something you want to light every once in a while, especially during the wintertime, because the top of this thing it's like a blast furnace coming out of that thing when it's lit. It's actually hot enough to you could almost solder over the top of the thing. I mean, that's how much heat comes out of that thing. So my little Aladdin lamp is now complete. Just got to clean them up, and I'll probably hang them in here for a little while, and then find another spot when I put my pothos plant back in here to in the darkness of the laboratory here. And so I guess we'll end this segment here. Well, I don't know if I would assume I'll probably have a video of cleaning this up a little bit and getting it lit for the first time and burning off that blue coating on that mantle. And then, like I said, after that blue coating is burned off, that mantle is extremely fragile, where a good blast of wind or a good jar will actually damage it, where you'll have to replace it and stuff like that. And like I said, I never lit this thing, so it'll be a little bit of a learning curve. It almost broke it right on here on camera. So a learning curve on how to light it and get it operating and running and stuff like that. So we'll get this off before it actually does break. So like I said, a learning curve on actually how to light these things and stuff like that, because you got to get the flame just right at first to get it warmed up, and then of course I think it's the first hour that you actually run this thing that you're always kind of like tweaking it, turning the flame up or down and stuff like that, because one thing you don't want to be doing is when this thing is running is to have the flame shooting out of the mantle. It's not burning correctly, and it'll actually damage the mantle and stuff like that, where it'll leave carbon deposits, and then it won't light evenly or consistently, and you'll have like a hot spot, cold spot, stuff like that, blah blah blah. Of course, there's a lot of videos out there of people running these things there, and they make it look easy, but they've been running them for a long time. So we'll end this video here, or segment here, and I'll bring you back or into another video when this thing is all cleaned up, shined up, and hanging somewhere, and we'll light this sucker off, and we'll turn the electric lights off, and we'll see what it looks like running under oil power. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.